Hi, my name is Sudeepthi Ravipati, and my project title is The Impact of Transcranial Stimulation on Discomfort and Decision-Based Cognitive Performance. So a little bit about me. My mentor was Mr. Cazares. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm coming from California. And what this really came from was I play basketball, and a lot of high impact athletes actually face multiple microconcussions in their lifetime. And brain stimulation is one of the newest uses for microconcussions. And that actually got me interested in brain stimulation. So the research question that I have is, does transcranial stimulation induce discomfort impact decision-based cognitive performance? Now let's break it down. What is brain stimulation? It is a treatment that puts electric current directly into our brain. It has been shown to reduce some symptoms for a variety of diseases and disorders like Parkinson's disease and essential tremors. There are also different types of stimulation, and the first kind is called transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is a procedure that uses magnetic fields to actually influence the nerve cell activity. So as you can see on the right here, that's essentially what the magnetic tool would look like for this procedure. And then the next one is direct current stimulation. It's a non-invasive technique, and you have a portable head device and electric currents that are going through the head device. We also have alternating current stimulation, which is very similar to the last one. You have the same type of head device, but it's the way that the currents are being directed. It's bidirectional, and that's where you get the alternating current part. And this is relatively new technology. It was only in 2002 that deep brain stimulation for the treatment of Parkinson's disease was actually granted approval by the US Food and Drug Administration. Now, there are some drawbacks and concerns about using transcranial stimulation. First of all, when having stimulation, discomfort is bound to happen and is actually pretty prevalent in a lot of the studies I've looked at. So discomfort is very subjective and there's no standardized scale. There's limited research about pain and discomfort with brain stimulation, and that's why I wanted to do this project. One specific study showed that out of 40 youth applicants, 6 would not take part in transcranial magnetic stimulation, again, due to the discomfort. Next, we have the parts of the brain, which are also really important to understand where the stimulation is actually going. First is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and this is a part of the frontal lobes typically associated with memory and all sorts of things related to attention. And what will this project do? So the point of this project was to use a published study to investigate the impact of brain stimulation targeting the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex on engagement in mental effort. And my specific question is whether the protocol that the study employed could have induced feelings of discomfort, which is what the study glossed over. I wanted to analyze participants' discomfort scores to identify any unexpected effects of discomfort on the actual cognitive performance and look at suggestions for future research models. So we analyzed 3 data sets publicly available through the research publication of brain stimulation over dorsomedial prefrontal cortex modulates effort-based decision-making. The TACS was applied to 35 volunteers aged between 19 and 33 years old. The dataset also had 3 different levels of transcranial brain stimulation, and that's spectrums of theta, sham, and alpha. So those are 3 different levels and a specific order for different tasks, memory and decision. So the first step was to actually analyze the open data set that was provided by study. And once again, this project was using frontal theta oscillations. So the students did receive a bonus in this study, and the participants were also given 2 different tasks related to making decisions and receiving awards. And the stimulator used was an 8-channel stimulator where the electrodes were attached to the patient's head. So once again, it was non-invasive. So at the same time as the participants were receiving the stimulation, they had to carry out a certain task. So it's called NBAC. And they also had to carry out a decision task. And they also had they also had the opportunity to choose what type of task they wanted, low effort or high effort. And then they also had monetary awards. And we also know that participants receiving these 3 different levels had it at a 1.5 peak to peak strength. And this concentrates on the DMPFC, which is a part of the brain processing theory of mind, decision-making, and emotional responses, which makes sense considering all the tests and procedures were about decision-making. The procedure was that participants had to perform tasks while receiving one of 3 types of stimulation levels. Now looking at what I used for data analysis, there we used basically a simple linear regression, and then we also used the best fit slope, and a significance level criteria was alpha less than 0.05. So this means that if the significance was less than 0.05, then we knew that there was something going on here that we could analyze. More analysis procedures that we use, the Tukey's honest significant difference, and then the one-way ANOVA. So these are both 2 different methods that are used to assess means in a group, and they're really helpful for us to analyze the huge data sets that were given in the study. And the results. Now, these are a lot of numbers, but I'll summarize it pretty quickly. So the overall regression is one part and discomfort is another part. So the regression is using the procedures that I showed in the last slide. So for TACS 0, the lowest level, there's no significance. But for both TACS 6 and TACS 10, there was a significance. And for discomfort on the right side, we also see discomfort did not predict D prime in the TACS 0 condition. But in all the other conditions, it did. Now, this means that there is some sort of connection between the upper level stimulations and discomfort inducing the different decisions. The means of the 3 conditions were unequal using the same stuff that I just mentioned. Subjects of the $1 condition reported tasks more enjoyable than subjects in the control condition. This could have also impacted the results. The means of the 3 upper different conditions were unequal according to a one-way ANOVA again. And the pairwise comparison using the Tukey's test indicated one significant comparison, and that's the 1 effort difference condition showed that subjective values were significantly higher than those in the other conditions. So this is for different efforts. And what does all those numbers mean? Well, that means that there is a significance here, that this means that our question is partly answered. There is a relationship between the discomfort and the performance from the study. So we cannot confirm this relationship exists. And this is because statistical significance does not fully equate to correlation, so we cannot assume or just come to a straight conclusion. Contributions beyond. So we need to have more studies analyzing transcranial stimulation with a much bigger study set because 35 people is simply not enough to get a full group. We need to learn as much as possible about transcranial stimulation, use it safely. And we also need to look forward to see the future, and that is the possibility of neural enhancements and where ethics plays into that. And next is making leaps in science. Over the past couple of years, multiple research studies are making strides in understanding brain stimulation. And one specific study is by Stanford Medicine, and that is how they understood how exactly stimulation helps treat depression, and it's a one-of-a-kind study. I'd like to thank my mentor, and I'd also like to thank the authors of the study that I used for this project. Thank you.
Great job. All right, your question is, what next question would you pose to the field to further this investigation?
I'd ask what the impact of stimulation could be for sports and how that plays a role for high school athletes, for college athletes, and how there can be more awareness about microconcussions, which I didn't know until like my senior year of high school after doing high impact sports my entire life.
Gotcha. Sounds great. We look forward to that next research.